and hands coming over my shoulders as if to cuddle me. And when I touched the hands, I felt the male hand with the hair on the back and turned around and there was nobody there.
Not to trust anything we cannot see.
Death is not an end, it's just a change to a different world. We're lucky to receive them, we need to work with them. I think in these modern times we need to be careful that we don't lose our gifts, because once they're lost...
Where on this map do you sit?
I can read jewellery, I also use tarot cards, and I can just actually read people. We as a human race need
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ, ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਸ਼ਾਹ। आज ਦਾ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੋ ਗੈਸਟ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਨਿਊਜ਼ੀਲੈਂਡ ਤੇ ਨੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਤੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੀ। Welcome to the next episode of SNS Diaries, a modern South Asian podcast where we talk business, life, and everything in between. And before you ask, yes, today's guest is not South Asian. She's Kiwi. The reason she's on our show today is because her world and ours are so intertwined, and I'd love to talk about that more today. My guest today is Anne Hickey. Anne grew up on the other side of the ditch, a Kiwi, a farm girl who enjoyed simple pleasures in life. This renowned woman has such a rich history in one of the most emotionally demanding industries there is, aged care. Anne started working on the floor, made her way up, then did something really interesting. She crossed over the bridge and started working as a senior quality assessor for the Aged Care Quality Commission, who is the regulator for all of Australia. After this, she did something even more interesting. She bet on herself and left a secure government job to start a business helping people who are in the most vulnerable stages of their life. Anne was the founder of My Aged Care Family Solutions, where she helped families every step of the way into placing their loved ones when they required care. Today, she's back into the thick of it all, running a successful residential aged care facility with a prominent provider in the industry. A worker, a founder, a manager. There truly is nobody else that I know of who has seen the industry from this many angles. But here's the part that you're not expecting. Anne is also an intuitive, a clairvoyant, and a spiritualist. I've never interviewed someone quite like this. Welcome to the show, Anne.
Thank you very much, Chantal. It's a pleasure to be here.
How are you feeling today?
Very nervous. It's not something I would normally do.
Take a few breaths. This is not nerve-wracking at all, I promise you. But myself and the listeners are very intrigued to getting to know you a bit better today. Let's dive right in. So, Anne, you've worn many hats whilst you've been in the industry, starting from down below, being a worker in the industry, making your way up, and at the same time, you've had these special skills inside you all the time where you have felt energy. So I'm just so intrigued to understand, what is the version of you that people usually see?
I think the version of people normally first meet is a very quiet person who sits in the background. But probably what I'm actually doing is getting to know people, watching and getting the feeling of the room and getting the feeling of people's energy to see where I sit within the room. And who I have more in common with, and those who I need to watch probably more than others. And that probably helped me a lot as a regulator, really getting to know people and what questions I needed to ask.
Through your career journey, I'm sure you have worked with a lot of South Asian families. Tell us, what do you see us getting right in this space? And what are some things that you see we are struggling with when we're caring for our elders in this environment?
What I see is a culture that respects your elders, respects what they have given you, and what they can offer as they age. And I think what I have seen is how, well, the South
South Asian.
Asian culture looks after their elderly. It's not something that the Western culture does well. I believe that it's something that we as a Western culture have lost along the way. We don't value our elders. We don't value what they've done for us, as probably your culture does a lot better than us. And that is something I hugely respect and I hugely value when someone from a South Asian culture comes into a home, and what we can do to support not only that elderly person, but their family as a community. Going forward, what we could do better, I think we can work better as a community together, respecting one another, and embracing each other's cultures. Because I think Australia and New Zealand together, our cultures are so intertwined. We are growing as one people now. And that is something that's happened over the last decade, maybe 2 decades, where we are valuing each other's culture and taking bits of other people's culture and putting it into our own, really, and making our own subcultures.
That's very true. So, and tell me, I think there is still a lot of stigma when it comes to putting our elderly in aged care when we talk about, the South Asian culture. Do you see that is shifting now?
It's starting to shift. I think it's very much in its infancy. I think when I see someone from a South Asian culture looking at aged care, it is come from a place of real need. It is because the family really can't look after those medical needs of that person, and it really is a last resort. And I think that's something we need to value and to really respect as a Western culture. It is not something that we normally see.
The gifts that you have or possess, we were talking about. Tell me, has there been any part of yourself you've had to quiet down to be taken seriously in a professional room?
I do have to be very careful about my intuition. I have to be very careful who I share that with. A lot of people, especially in the Western culture, don't appreciate that intuitive side of people. And I think it's something we all possess. And I think a lot of times it is schooled out of us, if you like, because we're told that that it's not real, it's not something you should believe in. So I think that's something I'm very cautious who I share that side of me with.
Very interesting. Before we dwell deep into it, I'm sure our listeners are wondering what these special gifts are, or the 3 specific words that I said earlier. And in your own words, can you describe to our listeners what is the difference between an intuitive, a clairvoyant, and a spiritualist, and where on this map do you sit?
I think that's a very difficult question. I don't know if I can answer that one completely. I was brought up very spiritual. I was brought up in the Salvation Army Church, quite religious. And to me, that's what I was brought up believing is spiritual. When I was 23, I always knew I had an intuitive side of me, but when I was 23 and my brother died, I found that I had gifts that I was able to hone in on, if you like. And that was when I discovered that spirituality has nothing to do with religion. It has something to do with how we feel, what we believe in, and how we work with the world around us and work with other people. Clairvoyancy is a tool. To me, it is my tool. I'm lucky to be able to have multiple tools that I can work with to talk with people, to help people in times of need, in times of just discussions. But normally people want to know a bit more information. The tools that I use are psychometry, so I can read jewellery. I also use tarot cards, and I can just actually read people. And it's a gift, and I say it's a gift. It's something that I've expanded on with time and with support from others.
Oh, wow. That has just given me goosebumps listening to all of this, Anne. Spoke about very briefly about your brother and how you started to lean into more of your skills at that time. Could you take me back to the time when you first realized you could sense things or you had different abilities to others? How old were you and how did that make you feel?
I think I always knew. I had a lovely grandmother who was a very religious lady, but who was very open about spirituality and what she could sense. And I think as a child, I didn't realize what she was trying to teach me. But I think back now, I think she was the most amazing spiritual person who knew. She knew people, she knew what to say to people, and she just, it was just amazing what she would come out with. And I didn't know as a child. I think growing up a teenager, becoming a young mother, I didn't really have time to think of spirituality or the gifts that I had. But at 23, I had an incident where my brother, through an accident, ended up in ICU. And as he laid there, I strictly remember standing at a kitchen sink doing dishes and hands coming over my shoulders as is to cuddle me. And when I touched the hands, I felt the male hand with the hair on the back and turned around and there was nobody there. It didn't scare me, and I knew instantly it was my brother. And then not long after that, I was sitting in a chair and it started rocking. And again, the arms came over to me to cuddle. And it was him again. And that was the time I really started to practice, to relax, and to deep think about life, about things that were occurring, and the meaning that what was happening around me. And I was able to develop those skills very supportively with my mother and some friends who supported me through those changes.
Wow, Anne. Amazing. Amazing. I have no more words really um, to explain myself. That just makes me feel flabbergasted. Walk us through what it actually feels like to have this ability. For different people, when you say you're intuitive, is it a temperature, a feeling, a sense? What is it that they need to look for so they can also understand intrinsically that they could potentially be intuitive and they'll need to tap into that energy?
I think we're all intuitive. I think we will walk into a room, we will go to people and think, oh, I don't like you for some reason. I've never met you before, but I don't like you. And you'll stay away from that person. Or you'll go to somebody else and you'll feel like you've known them for years. That is your intuition. That is your clairvoyance. That is something that you're not aware that you could do. Children have this intuition, but for some reason we grow out of it and we don't keep practicing. And I do think it's practicing. It's about being able to sit back, leave the world behind you, and just be in the moment. When I get that feeling, it is a feeling, it is a sense, and I can usually tell people, the people I want to be around, the people that are going to teach me life lessons. And I'm a firm believer we are where we are supposed to be at the time. We learn good, we learn bad, but they're life lessons that we all need to learn to help us grow into our next part of life. And that will lead us into the end, to where we eventually pass on to another realm. And we've learnt those life lessons. You will meet people that you think they just have an old soul, and that's usually because they have, but you will have that sense.
And that's a beautiful segue into my next question, Anne. So you now work in an industry where you do see death, imminent death so closely. Can you tell us what have the dying taught you about living differently?
I believe that the dying have taught me that we need to live life. We need to live as much of the life as we can. We need to enjoy it. We need to live our experiences and not not put anything aside. If we want to do something, we need to go out and do it. We are only here for a very short time, and we need to embrace the life that we have been gifted. That's probably, death is not an end. It's just a change to a different world. Death, although it is hurtful for those who are living, for those person who's passed, they've lived and learned what they've needed to live and learn, and it's time for them to go to the next part of their life, if you like.
Tell us, have you ever felt a resident dying before they did?
When I first started in aged care, yes, I would always know that somebody was about to pass. It's probably not something that I try to tune to now, because it's probably something I've become used to, if that makes sense. Have
any of them tried to leave you messages before they go?
A lot of people will try to leave messages. I tend to find that the elderly are ready to pass. They don't hang around an aged care facility. It's more the young people that will stay around to give messages to loved ones.
And what type of messages have you received?
It could be, I'm okay, everything's fine, I love you, thank you. It's those messages that the living need to hear, that they need to pass on for those who are living to have peace.
This is also intriguing for me, and I'm sure for our listeners. We'll move on to our next question. Tell us, what is one most common thing that many get wrong in this type of work?
I think we try to tell people what they want to hear. I think that is the thing that we do get wrong. When I give people a story, it's not my story. It is the story of the person who has passed. It is the message that they want to give across. It is not my message. Often I will give that message and I actually won't remember what I've said because it has not come from me. I am just the vessel for them to speak through.
Very interesting. If you had an advice to give to a skeptic, what would that be?
I have met a few skeptics in my time. My husband's one of them. It is usually because they're scared. It is usually because they don't want to know. And it's the unknown. If people don't want to hear and they really don't want to be part, I won't force people. But most people, after they hear the message, are relieved, they feel at peace and can move on.
So as you know, in the South Asian culture, things like reading palms, reading tea leaves, or even jewelry, all of this came about from our grandparents, great-grandparents' times. But as times are changing and we've moved to adapt the Western culture more, we are being taught to ignore these signs and believe them to be superstitious and be more practical in life. Where do you think this is leading us to?
I think if we go down this path, we're going to lose our spirituality. We're going to lose our culture. I fully embrace people who have different abilities than mine. I love to meet with them. I love to talk with them. My mother reads palms. She reads dreams. I have never met anybody that reads tea leaves, but if I could find someone, I would love to meet with them and see what they do. These are gifts we should never turn off. These are gifts we should adapt and take forward with us. We are lucky to receive them. We need to work with them. I think in these modern times, we need to be careful that we don't lose our gifts, because once they're lost, we won't be able to get them back.
Well, as you know, India is full of so much rich culture. Well, guys, if anybody knows anybody who can read tea leaves or leaves in general, please hit us up. Let us know in the comments. And I'm sure to pass this on to Anne.
Thank you very much. That would be lovely.
So let's zoom out a little bit now. As you know, we are living through the generation of AI right now, where we are asking chatbots to be our counselors. We are getting AI to basically tell us how we're feeling. what we should be saying, absolutely everything like this. What do you make of all of this?
I love AI. Look, I use AI in my daily life with my work. I do. What scares me is the future of AI. I think we need to be very careful we don't lose our human side, and the side that makes us who we are. I think AI has its place. I just think we need to be very careful how far we take it.
With that, could you tell us what do you think are some things that AI will never be able to touch, which only humans can do?
They'll never be able to feel. They'll never be able to hug you. They will never be able to be a human. They really are there as it is a great tool that we can utilize to enhance our lives, but never to replace a human.
Do you think intuition becomes more valuable or less when everybody has a machine in their pocket telling them what they should do and how they should feel?
Very much more valuable. I would never let a machine tell me how I should feel at all. Certainly, like I would never let another person tell me how I should feel. How we feel is all ours. It's how it makes us who we are.
So, and as someone who reads energy, what are you picking up as a collective right now with all of this happening in the world?
I think we're at a time of change. And I think we've been at a time of change for about a decade now, but that change is coming very close to, if you like, ahead, where technology is starting to take over too much. And I think we as a human race need to stop and think on how much we want to allow that to happen before it overtakes us and we have no choice, no ability to take that power back. I think times are interesting. I don't mind change. I'm not a person who shies away from change. I love technology, but I do think we need to be very careful.
Absolutely right. Everything has its rightful place, isn't it? And we should never use and abuse things that will get us into trouble. So, Anne, you've spent a lifetime to trust what you can't see. And we're currently living in a time where we are taught not to trust anything we cannot see. What is your advice on how we can unlearn this?
I think we need to go back to basics. I think we need to listen to ourselves. We need to listen to our inner voices. And I think we need to really just take a step back and think, where have we come from? Where do we want to go? And where are we now? And how we can make it all work for us. Listening to our inner voices helps us adapt. It helps us to plan our future. And it helps us just to make sense of the past. And that really helps us to grow. So intuition is a valuable part of being a human. And I think we all have it and we all use it. We just probably we're probably not aware that we use it.
So we should not be scared to discover the unknown. Is that right?
Absolutely not. That's fun. That's part of life. We all like adventure, whether it be climbing a mountain, traveling, going for a walk. It's all adventure. It's all traveling the unknown. So don't be scared.
So, Anne, you rebuild cars for fun as well. Isn't that right?
I love building cars. I was brought up a petrol head, if you like. I just think working with hands, fixing things, to me it's relaxing. I have a husband that enjoys doing that with me. I have a family that had built race cars and raced them. So it was probably something I was brought up with. So yes, I do find that enjoyable.
Wow, you truly are a woman of many talents, aren't you? Full of surprises. And you're also actually on a journey for yourself currently where you are quite, what's the word? You're really looking after your health.
Yes.
Was there a particular situation that sparked this change in you?
I think when we work so many long hours, we forget to look after ourselves. And I noticed for me probably a couple of years ago, things were happening, in my body that I didn't like. I was getting sore knees and sore backs, and I really didn't like the way my life was going. And working in a healthcare industry, you're well aware that there is a point where if you don't start to make changes, you're going to end up very unwell, and the end of your life probably won't be as you expected. So to me, it was a time when I needed to make change to ensure that as I age well, and that I age being able to look after myself and look after those around me. Very important for myself. And I have noticed, since I have lost quite a bit of weight, some of those things that, my sore knees have gone, the sore back's gone, I have more energy. I have still a way to go, but it is a journey, and it's a great journey. I'm enjoying the journey.
Wonderful. So for our listeners, those that are currently stuck in the rut of life, as you say, right? Working really hard, trying to balance family life, who are not really thinking about their health as much, what are some tips you would give to them?
Take time for yourself every day. Think about the exercise, whether it just be going for a walk, thinking about the food that you eat, and just thinking about your spiritual side as well, because that is just as important as your physical side. Taking time for yourself is the biggest thing. I think as parents, we look after our children. They become our focus. Our careers are our focus, and then we become last. And I don't think that helps us as we age.
That's really good advice. And so on the SNS Diaries, we have a tradition. We always end our podcast show with a rapid fire session. So I don't want you to think too much about this. I'm going to ask you a few quick questions, but give me just one word answers for them. Whatever pops up into your brain first.
Okay.
Yes? One word to describe spirit.
Home.
One word to describe AI.
Future.
Intuitive, clairvoyant, or spiritualist.
Clairvoyant.
A sign from the other side people often miss.
That they are there helping us.
Most common question people ask in a reading.
Will I get rich?
A person, living or dead, you'd want to read for.
Oh, that's an interesting question. Who would I want to read for? Do you know what? I'd really love to read for Jacinta Ardern. It'd be fantastic.
I second that one. I do. Intuition or evidence?
Intuition.
Something AI will never replace.
Human touch.
Something AI is better than we ever want to admit.
Fixing my spelling errors.
What is one biggest sign you're not trusting your gut?
When you go and do something completely different than what you thought you were going to do, and then you turn around and think, I should never have done it.
Always the way, isn't it? That's what always happens. One of the cars that you've loved, that you've worked on.
Oh, Holden Monaro. Loved my Holden Monaro. We bought a 2015. It was very plain. We done it up. Beautiful car. Beautiful. But I've had a lot of lovely cars.
Non-negotiable in your morning.
Non-negotiable in the morning. Definitely breakfast with my dogs.
And an egg.
Oh, and an egg.
One egg.
One egg.
Advice you'd give to younger Anne.
Listen to yourself, trust yourself, and enjoy life.
3 words that describe you today.
3 words that describe me today. Older, wiser, happier.
And that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you again for your time, your honesty, and really being present here with me today as your authentic self. I can't thank you enough for sharing all those insights that you've brought to us today. There were certainly so many golden nuggets in this that many of our listeners, and myself included, will take on from this. So guys, if something from today's episode moved you, save this, share it with someone you're already thinking of. Follow us on Instagram, TTSS Diaries. I'm Shah. This has been the SNS Diary. Real talk, real growth, real results. And I'll see you next time.